Welcome to More Creative. I'm your host, Ashley Wiley, and today we talk with Mark Page, a senior concept designer and art director at Walt Disney Imagineering. Throughout our conversation, Mark tells us about his experiences before and throughout art school, his navigation of the design industry as a recent graduate, his career development at Walt Disney Imagineering, and we also get to hear about his experience creating his new graphic novel, Kana's Island. It was wonderful to have the opportunity to hear Mark's story. I hope you all enjoy this one. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to speak with you.
It's my pleasure. Definitely. I appreciate you guys reaching out to me.
So before we get started with the interview, I just have to make a quick statement that I want to make it clear that I am only representing myself and not on behalf of the Walt Disney Company, that all of the views and opinions expressed are my own and do not necessarily represent or reflect those of the Walt Disney Company or Walt Disney Imagineering.
So I would like to begin basically from the very beginning, where it all started. So tell me about when you started drawing and creating.
I was very young, probably 3 to 5 years old. My brother always drew, and I thought he was drawing, and that was cool. So that meant, I should be drawing too. Yeah, I'm 46 now, so it's been a number of years.
Did you take any art classes growing up?
Yeah, actually, my brother actually started taking a class. They had kind of this art class for young people that were in the age range from 5 to 7. I think I was like 4, so I was like, I didn't make the cut, but I begged and begged, and my mom asked the teacher basically if I could just, I think, sit in, and I thought I was actually in the class. It was awesome. Definitely a good memory.
So when did you know that you maybe wanted to do this as a career?
I think I always thought in the back of my mind that I was going to be an artist, even at a very young age. I kind of was a deep thinker, I think. um, Now I think it's more of anxiety, like trying to plan my future. Um, but back then, I think I just always thought about, I see my dad go to work every day. What am I going to do for work? And I just knew that I was going to be an artist. Yeah, I had no idea what that would mean or how I would make a living. Of course, I was a young kid, so it's like, I didn't think that deep into it. I just knew that I was going to draw, and that's how I was going to make my living.
So did that have a major impact on where you decided to go to school?
Oh, definitely. So my brother and I both drew quite a bit, and we were in art competitions. And when I was in high school and I was a senior, my brother and I, we took it like very seriously. And my teacher, I'm glad she picked up on that because we went on a class field trip to the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, which I had never heard of. I was just blown away. I was like, you know, the school looked super cool for one thing. This whole school is for art because it's a private school. And I was just like, I got to go here. I mean, this is it was to me it was a no-brainer. I mean, to my mom it was kind of like, that place is not cheap. I wasn't even thinking about that. I knew that I had to go to that school. So yeah, I decided that's where I wanted to go. And, we talked to some of the counselors, got information on what the tuition was and things like that. And they really were kind of discouraging me for trying to go straight from high school. And so, anyways, since they so strongly advised it, and like I mentioned, the school was not not cheap, I decided, okay, well, this will give me an opportunity maybe to save some money. So I started going to a community college, and I actually was working two jobs at the same time to save money for at least my first term there. You take 8 terms at the art center. And once I started taking classes at the community college, my brother and we had just drawn so much our whole lives that it was kind of like, and I'm not, trying to, brag on myself or anything, but what they were learning, my brother and I had already kind of learned on our own because of art center. That kind of validated, not just to me but to my mom, that there is potential for someone to make a living with their artwork. But I'm so fortunate that I got to go to art center and found that there were far more options open to me.
So, did you have any idea what other programs or types of classes that they offered at the Art Center before you started going there?
I did. They were mostly known for transportation design. So art center is kind of like if you want to design cars for Porsche or, you know, Nissan or Honda or any of these major car companies, that's what the school was mainly known for. And I wanted to work on movies. I wanted to do entertainment design. But at the time, they didn't have any real curriculum for that. So the closest thing I could do was take illustration classes. And so that was my major, but I went and pretty soon complained to my department chair that I want to work on movies or animated films or, things that have to do with entertainment. And so what they did was they just said, your major will be illustration, but we're going to take curriculum from some of the other majors to create a curriculum for you that would prepare you to work in the entertainment industry. So I had classes that environment designers would take or filmmakers would take. But all of that came together to help me develop the work that I was starting to develop, which was what you would consider visual development for a film. The unfortunate thing was that after my second term, my mom said, okay, that's it. The well's gone dry and we can't afford this anymore. And I still had 6 more terms. And it was like I already had a taste of what it was like to be working around like serious artists. I mean, some of the famous concept designers and illustrators and artists now are guys that I went to school with, and I needed to be around that environment, and I wasn't going to let anything take me from that. So they had a provision where you could take a term off. And so while I did that, and I was really like inspired by a lot of stop motion, Tim Burton's work. Nightmare Before Christmas had come out recently. And so I said, I'm going to do a stop motion film. And all the time, I should have been thinking about what I'm going to do for my portfolio because every term at Art Center, you do work and you put work together to apply for a scholarship that will help you for the following term. So, anyways, I just started doing this stop motion film. I really didn't like come up with a script or anything like that. Anyways, it's time for school to start again. I go back and talk to my department head, and of course, I'm worried about the scholarship thing because, my mom has already let me know that she can't really help me anymore financially. And I was just like, I need like to get a scholarship. And so I submitted it and my first scholarship, and that scholarship paid for half my tuition.
For the following term?
Yes,
Okay.
it'd be for my third term. So I just had to pay for the rest. So I started working. There was a wood shop at our school, and then whatever that didn't cover, my mom agreed to put it on her credit card.
Oh my goodness.
And so I'm not out of the woods yet because the credit card thing's only going to last so long. So, anyways, to make a long story short, the next term, I decided, okay, I'm going to act as if I'm actually putting together a stop motion movie. I'm putting together a production. That's what I used to apply for my next scholarship. And not only did I get the scholarship, which ultimately paid for the rest of my schooling, I had students coming up to me and telling me, Mark, I want to work on your film.
Wow.
And I'll work for free. I'll build the sets or, whatever you want. Like, I want to be a part of this. This is so cool.
What was that like to have other students come up to you and say they wanted to be a part of your work?
I get goosebumps talking about it. It was crazy. It was just like to get people that excited to where they're willing to give their, free time. That was a pretty amazing feeling. And after that, it was quite apparent that I knew where I wanted to land up, and that was in the entertainment industry.
So, when you got to your final year and you had to prepare to apply for different jobs, were you still looking to go into the movie industry or had anything changed by that time?
Yeah, in fact, I had actually gotten an internship at an effects studio, and they did special effects, 3D animated special effects for a lot of films. And so that was an awesome experience because I was actually working in a studio environment while I was still in college. So I graduated from Art Center, and the company that gave me the internship, Rhythm and Hughes, they still are having me do some work. Um, but then I got a job opportunity, work at what's known as a creature shop, but they really don't exist anymore. But those are the places where they would actually build like the movie Predator. The guys I worked for did a lot of the alien costumes. So when I was working for them, they were doing, I think, the third Alien movie, um, which was creepy because I had to work in this room and it had all the like, these suits of creatures and stuff from all these movies.
Oh
They were
my
like
God.
right behind me. So it's like, I'd be drawing and stuff, and I'd turn around and there's like all these creatures from films and stuff, and it was just a little creepy, but
Were those costumes massive?
oh yeah, yeah. Some of them were like, 7 feet tall.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy, but cool at the same time because it was like there was maquettes in there, and it was just like a treasure trove of like, if you're a movie buff, oh man, it was just like it was crazy. So, anyways, I graduated from Art Center, and they had interviews they were going to be holding like 2 weeks later. So, I'm working at the creature shop and I'm digging it. I'm like, hey, I'm working on films. I'm working on the X-Files movie, which was very popular at the time. And so I was like, hey, I don't need to go to those interviews. I I found my calling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my counselor said, no, you cannot miss those interviews. We have, the Disney company and we have George Lucas's company and and you've signed up to meet with these people. You cannot just not show up.
So tell me about that process. Is that something that the school set up for you? Did you give recommendations on places that you might want to apply eventually?
Yeah, exactly. So we got like a list of companies that were going to be coming to interview at Art Center, and I think we were able to choose six companies to interview with, and I chose Nike, I chose George Lucas's company, of course. Nike I chose because I heard that I you would be working with the athletes, and I was like, my God, I'll be like working with Michael Jordan to design his shoes. Are you kidding me? Like, you guys don't even have to pay me. And I chose Disney Feature Animation, DreamWorks, then Walt Disney Imagineering. And I really had no idea that there was a place where they design theme park attractions. And it's so ironic. I would go to the park, but I remember thinking, hmm, I wonder who designs these things. Oh well,
I
it's
did the exact same thing. I
like
mean, you know that somebody has to, but you don't think that there's a separate company or a separate unit within Disney that is fully responsible for creating things like that. It just doesn't pop into your
yeah,
mind.
yeah. I don't know what thought or how thought they came to be. I just thought, well, based on a ride about Cinderella, they just have some guys go in there and put a roller coaster and put characters that are from the film in there, and there's not a lot of design work. They just copy stuff from the film and build it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the extent of my thoughts about Imagineering. so, so anyways, the day comes and I'm kind of sulking. We have to have the interviews because and that's how I felt too. We have to have these interviews, and I'm gonna miss working on like my favorite Martian, which was a Disney film at the time, and I was designing the character. And boy, was I glad that I didn't miss those interviews because the interviews went well. The interview with Imagineering by far, I think, the best, just because they really loved my imagination. And to me, that was a huge compliment to me. So even though I know, thought the other interviews were cool and they went well, and Nike and LM had interest in me, to hear somebody say, that they really appreciated my imagination. They felt that the way I thought about things really be beneficial to organization like Disney Imagineering was kind of like, wow, kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, lady that interviewed me, her name was Catherine Klatt. She was awesome. She was an artist herself. She was so much more than just, a person that came, as a recruiter. And I think she was another big reason why I decided I'm gonna look closer into this Imagineering thing. So, couple days later, I finished up on the creature shop stuff, and I was like, "Where's that lady's card again from Imagineering?" Because I was like, I need a job now. Um, Plus, I mean, I thought it would. I always, after I interviewed with her, I thought, oh yeah, that would be cool. But I'm already doing movies. So it took about 3 months, and I finally was invited to come in for an interview. And no lie, back then you had to interview with like 8 portfolio leaders, and those are the people that kind of like, oh, like Joe Rody. Everybody knows Joe Rody. He's the portfolio leader for um, Animal Kingdom. You had to meet with like guys like that, and had to all like your work and like you as a person, your personality. Imagineering, I don't know how difficult it is to get hired there now, but when I got hired, it was very difficult. I had a lot of friends that were like, "How'd you get hired there? I want to work there." And yeah, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate.
What was it like bringing your work to be seen by these people that had been iconic within the Disney industry?
I was, definitely I looked up to them in their positions, and back then I not gonna lie, I had a little swag to me. And I was almost kind of like proud to show them my stuff, because I didn't just have schoolwork. I had work from real world projects. Like, I could say I worked on the Disney favorite Martian movie. Yeah, it was it the best movie? No, but I designed the character. And of course, that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, others might love it. And I had worked at them in Hughes and designed characters and environments and stuff. And so I felt pretty good. I mean, I thought that they would, you know, respect the fact that I had already sought out work to get experience, and that I was hungry, and I was willing to work hard. I thought they would see all of that in my portfolio, and thankfully they did. Yeah, I got the thumbs up from all of these gentlemen, who some of them I still talk to this day. And it was a pretty amazing thing when they called me and said, "We want to make you an offer, and we'd like you to start, you know, next week." And it was kind of like, "Yeah, that sounds good, I think." And I hung up the phone, and I think I probably jumped through the ceiling. But it was pretty special. I think for my mom, it was just kind of like validation for her, because she always encouraged us and always bragged about brother and I drawing and stuff. And I think she definitely was proud of me, I have to say. That was definitely the cherry on top, to see, my mom's, you know, action, and to see how proud she was of me. That's my story of my journey to Walt Disney Imagineering.
So, what was your first role there? What was your title?
Show designer 3 or something, and then you went to, show designer 2. So yeah, I did that for I was there for about 2 years, and then we had finished working on a couple of large parks, California Adventure. At the time, they were working on Tokyo Disney Seas, which is amazing park. And if you can ever go there, I don't know if you've been able to.
It's on my bucket list.
Oh man, it's it is amazing.
I've heard it's like a completely different kind of park from all other Disney parks.
It is. It stands alone, in my opinion. It's kind of like, Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom is very different from the other parks, in a different way. Tokyo Disney Seas is the same thing. It's kind of like, I know this is a Disney park, but this is different. It's once I became an art director, my first attraction was at Tokyo Disney Sea. So I had to step up my game and learn a lot really quickly because it's not just um, art direction, but you're managing people and you're managing personalities and flying back and forth to a country that's all the way around the world, and you're talking to a, a guy that who got barely gone to Hawaii. So first didn't enjoy it because it was very stressful, but I had some really good mentors that told me, look, you're kind of trying to do too much. And that was only because I wanted to make a good impression. It was the first time I've been asked to direct something. Yeah, they helped me to understand, look, you can't do everything, and okay to tell some people, look, I know I have to do that. Oh, you need it so you can do your job, but you have to wait. And I didn't know I had the power to do that. I just thought, these people have been working here longer than me. They know the process, they know everything. So I thought I got to do everything they want me to do or ask me to do. That's a good way to burn yourself out.
I feel like that's, especially when this is your first role, that's definitely the expectation, especially when you're working with others that have been there longer than you have, to sort of please them first and make sure that you're coming across as responsible and know what you're doing. But my God, the pressure, I'm sure that was immense.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, when I had different ones that proved to be really good mentors to me, and that's when I started to feel like I had a little more control over what my role was. That started to make others feel more comfortable with the fact that I was giving direction. I grew a lot.
I do want to make a small pivot from Disney to the work that you do outside of your normal career. I know that you've created a graphic novel, Kana's Island, and I'd love to hear what your inspiration for the book is, and just go from there.
I mean, I think I never lost my love for film and animation, but I think, the thing behind that is storytelling. Just, you know, being able to tell a story and using characters and environments to tell your story. And that's one thing I've always loved to do is design my own characters, and then okay, so where do they live and what do they do and what's important to them? And so with Kana's Island, I wanted to do something on a larger scale, and I didn't want to do a children's book. I wanted to do something that had, you know, more of a story to it. And so I figured comic book is, I think, the best way to attack it because you get to tell more of a story. It's frame by frame, so it's kind of like film. I mean, a lot of it goes to my years growing up. Just very curious. He seeks out adventure. He's kind of like a kid that has to be doing something, and that was very much myself. And so basically the story is about Kana and his family have been misplaced. They've had to leave their original island for some reason. And so they've landed on this mysterious island and figure, as long as we stay here, we stay together as a tribe, we'll be safe. And eventually we return to our original home. And so Kana, when he realizes that all the men are going to get to go on the fishing trip, that doesn't sit too well with him. So one day when he's kind of sulking about his situation, finds this secret passageway that leads to the other side mountain ridge, and that's where all of ventures take place and where he meets his new friend. So to make a long story short, I did it in 2005 as a comic, and it was in black and white because I couldn't afford color. Only the front cover and the back cover was in color. And my wife worked at an elementary school, so they wanted me to come and talk to the kids. And she said, "Yeah, he's working on a comic book right now." And they're like, "What?" And I had just gotten them printed. So they're like, "We're gonna have a book fair end of this week. Do you think he would come and we'll let him bring his comic? He can sign them for the kids, and they can and their parents can purchase the comics." So I was like, "Oh, awesome!" Like my first audience. And that night, I think I sold 200 comics. I mean, that was a big deal to me because Kana is a character of color. And I also thought that, if people are of other ethnicities are going to be interested in this, and if he's an islander, then it might be of more interest to them. And I just thought that with him on this island, I could give me more freedom to have all these like crazy creatures, and I just felt like I could play around a lot more. So this school that my wife happened to work at, most of the kids that go there are of ethnicities other than brown. So my comic appealed to them. And it wasn't just the fact that I sold 200 comics in one night, but to these young kids that they didn't care the nationality of this kid. Back then that was still something that worried me. Now today it's like having a character, even your main character being of another nationality, not something that bothers people. In fact, people, they want to see like a Black Panther. They want to see characters of other ethnicities in the main character because they have different stories to tell. And so anyways, that to me felt like a huge triumph, that it didn't matter to them. They just cared about the story. In 2005, I got nominated in the San Diego Comic-Con, which was like a big deal. Got nominated in the category of one of the best newcomers, and I had never written or drawn or illustrated a comic book before in my life, but I was nominated with people that were from like Marvel and DC and Image, and these were, you know, professional book artists. So, I didn't win, but the fact that I was nominated, some of these people, that was a pretty big deal to me, and it ultimately got me a distribution deal, so my comics sold in comic stores and a couple animation studios that were interested in it. And I actually was supposed to be in the Comic-Con next month, but the COVID virus, that's not going to happen. But graphic novel will be for sale on my website on kanasisland.com.
Perfect. I'm so excited to be able to read it. It sounds amazing. Okay, so I do have a couple questions that I like to ask every guest that is going to be on the podcast. They're a little bit more fun, so nothing super serious. But the first one is, what profession, other than the one you currently have, would you like to try if you got the chance and didn't have to think about money or college or anything like that?
I'd probably be a chef.
Oh,
Cooking for sure.
that's a good one. All right, and then the last one, if there's anything that you'd like to share on turning your passion into a career, what would that be?
I think definitely more research you can do on what you do and find somebody who mentor. That goes a really long way because that person's going to give you insight and tell you about things that you would not know. You're new to whatever you're trying to pursue. And yeah, I think that's pretty huge is just trying to find a mentor and with LinkedIn and Instagram, there's so many ways to get audience with somebody. Of course, you want to be careful how you do it. You still have to remember they're a professional. There's a lot more out there that are willing to share knowledge about things. Say that's a big thing. And just, I mean, keep doing is that you like. Sometimes it can change. I mean, look at my story. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's great advice. Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I hope I didn't talk too much.
Oh, no. No, everything you said was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Wow. Ashley, I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Mark or purchase his book, Kana's Island, the links are in the description down below. You can also visit his website, markpagedesign.com, or find him on Instagram at markjpage. If you guys like the show, please subscribe, leave a rating, and comment on whatever platform you listen on. It really helps out the show. For more information, you can also find us on Instagram at @BeMoreCreative or on YouTube at More Creative. Again, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next time.